Stephen Blaine, your host with White Labs, an e-commerce marketing agency. Today's guest is Mahryah. Mahryah, feel free to introduce yourself and let our viewers know a little about yourself and your background.
Yeah, my name is Mahryah Shain, CEO over here at Mahryah Naturally. We make and sell all natural topical advanced stem cell products for thinning hair and hair loss.
Awesome. Well, tell me what inspired the brand. Tell me about your journey.
Okay, so essentially it's a family business. We're located here in California. We make everything here in California, and basically how we started out was, so every single man in my family is bald. I should be totally bald right now. For all my cousins, uncles, grandparents, father, everyone is bald. I'm thrilled to have what I have currently. So my father started losing his hair back in the 90s, like late 80s, 90s, started losing his hair. And so he was looking for solutions to hair loss, basically. Now, my whole family's philosophy has always been whatever you need it for your body and for your health, nature would provide. I mean, the concept of that, we've been on this planet for millions of years, and we've survived synergistically with nature for millions of years. So why that change doesn't really make any sense. So whenever someone in my family ever got sick, we'd always look for what kind of natural remedies or food or something like that was out there that could help boost the immune system or boost that part of the body that's responsible for, healing whatever that element is. So when my father started losing his hair, there wasn't really anything out there. There was home remedies. There was stuff like, rub an onion on your head or some random oil, there's always some kind of crazy. At one point in the beginning of the century, chicken poop was a popular remedy for hair loss. So there's always been these home remedies, but nothing really, produced results. And so he went down the road that most people go down with the drug route, which is the Rogaines and the minoxidils and finasterides that were made in the 70s and the same products that pretty much everyone's using today. And he got really sick. His immune system got hurt. He started having illness. He started getting lethargic. He actually started developing breasts because it alters hormone levels. And so we're like, whoa, this isn't worth it. This isn't really working. And so my mother is from Italy, and she was talking to one of our cousins in the Lake Como region, and they're like, well, there's this little pharmacy down the road. Pharmacy, they call that. Pharmacy is like the lab. They call it a pharmacy down the road that's making these really interesting all natural hair growth products. And so she's like, well, send us some. So she sent some over, and they were working. And so we basically became their North American distributors. And from that point, we set up a company, and then we started thinking we should probably learn about hair loss at this point. We started the company we should probably learn what this is. So then we started learning about it. And as we started researching more and more, we started discovering that, this product from Italy was good, but it wasn't amazing, but it was better than anything else that was out there. So when we started researching how people lose their hair, the reasons, there's lots of reasons: genetic, hormones, stress, medications. But when we started really learning the mechanics of it, we basically were like, well, why isn't anyone really addressing the root cause? Why isn't anyone really addressing the mechanics of the hair loss? And then it occurred to us well, it's silly because by this point it was the 2000s. And it was silly because the only thing that was out there that was primarily being used was the main drug products that were developed in the 70s. And we're science didn't go to sleep on hair loss in 1970s. Why is that primarily the same thing that everybody's using? So we started researching it, and we started finding all these really incredible studies being done with stem cells and probiotics, amino acids. And it was at that point that we moved everything to California. And we found a lab that kind of specializes in natural remedies, but based in scientific advancements. And we were like, here's all these studies. How can we take these studies and make a product with it? Because it doesn't exist in the world right now. And that's when we started creating our Mahryah Naturally line, was through that. And then we released our first product in 2016. Under the Mahryah Naturally banner, which was actually the first time stem cells for hair loss were introduced to market, topical stem cells. and then we
Awesome.
start from there.
Great story. I like it.
Yeah.
So obviously, I feel like I know your target audience, but who is your ideal target audience?
Well, it's really anyone, 35 to 65 who is either losing their hair drastically, wants to prevent their hair from being lost. Anyone who has like hair loss that's in the family, or under a lot of stress, because stress will cause your hair to fall out. It can be helped, but it will cause your hair to fall out. A lot of people use us who are on medications right now because a lot of medications have the side effect of hair loss. And one of the things about the more hair naturally products is that they don't enter the bloodstream. So we can help counteract that side effect of hair loss without without altering the effectiveness of their medication. So we do have a lot of people on medications that are using us as well. But
Great.
it's really personal, It's really personal because hair loss is such a personal thing because it really affects your self-confidence and your self-esteem. And so it's anybody who really just like wants to just feel great about their appearance, Because one of the great things about um, more hair naturally is that once you start using it, we like to talk to people before they start. I have phone numbers on our website, morehairnaturally.com, so they can call in. We can talk about their hair and where they're at. So we can set up some realistic expectations of where they can go. But one of the great things about it is that it's a confidence issue. And in order to regain your confidence and regain that self-esteem and to regain that feeling of like feeling great about yourself, you just have to start taking those actions to get you there, but you don't actually have to have that result quite yet to get there, if that makes sense. It's like when you go to the gym, you like if I go to the gym, and I'm changing in the bathroom and I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, yeah, I got a little flab there, and this is a little bit skinnier than I'd like, and I go and work out really hard for an hour. The truth is, I look the same as I did at the beginning of that workout versus the end of that workout. But you get back in the bathroom and you're changing, you're like, I look great. I can really see a difference here. You're like, I might even leave the gym without my shirt. I look so good, and it's like, I look the same, but I feel I have that boost of self-confidence because I know I'm doing those actions that are going to eventually get me where I need to be. And it's the same thing with your appearance. Like once you start taking those actions, you'll get there. You'll get there in that 3 to 6 month, sometime 12-month window. You'll get there. But just taking those actions alone is going to give you that self-esteem boost to get you back into the world and get you feeling great about yourself in relation to society and yourself and your friends and everything.
Awesome. So you've touched on this a bit, but what makes you different or better than your competitors? Because I know there's a lot of them.
Yeah. Stem cells. Here's the thing. This technology wasn't even available, in 2013. The topical application of stem cells and various probiotics and amino acids for thinning hair and hair loss. A lot of the drug products out there, they they have side effects. They have a pretty low success rate, but some people do great with them. Some people have been using them for years and are doing really well with them. But the thing that those products don't address is they don't address the root cause of of hair loss. They just don't. They address the symptoms and they work to kind of like kind of beat the symptoms of it, but they don't address the root cause. So the body is dependent on that drug to get results, if it is getting any results. So like when you're using like some sort of minoxidil product, basically what you're doing is you're forcing blood flow to the follicle, which if it works, great. But then the second you stop using it, you're going to lose all your results because your body's dependent on that drug to get those results. Our approach is totally different, and it's something that can be done now, which is really exciting. What it does is actually addresses the root cause of the thinning. So the body starts taking care of itself. So the body on its own starts increasing the blood flow to the follicle, and then at the same time we start bombarding it with stem cells, probiotics, amino acids. I can get really easily, quickly into like that root cause of hair loss because I think a lot of people don't know it. Should I jump into it?
Feel free. Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
So basically what happens, there's tons of reasons for hair loss, stress, medication, lifestyle, environmental. There's tons, but the overall arcing reason for hair loss that 95, 98% of the people have is genetics. Now, the genetic factor of hair loss sounds scary when you say that because people say genetics can't be built, dead end, you're stuck with it, live with it. But that's not necessarily true because how it works with hair loss is on our hair follicles, we inherit what are called these. Okay, let me back up. So there's a hormone that's responsible for hair loss. Now, what it is called DHT. A lot of people have heard it. It's dihydrotestosterone, but it's called DHT. When you research hair loss, it just comes up. Now, where this comes from is when your body breaks down the male hormone testosterone, it creates a byproduct called DHT, which is generally just excreted. It's not a big deal. It's just the result of your body metabolizing testosterone. However, when this passes by the hair follicle, it gets stuck in a little receptor site on the follicle, which essentially is like a pothole. So it gets stuck in this little pothole. Now this pothole, this is the inherited trait of hair loss. It's not hair loss. It's these potholes. So like you inherit it like you inherit freckles or green eyes. It skips generations. Some people get it, some people don't. You don't really know. So when the DHT passes by the hair follicle, it gets stuck in the little pothole. And over time, as more and more get stuck in these potholes, it begins to cut the blood flow off to the follicle. The follicle gets weaker and weaker and eventually dies. So hair loss is essentially determined by how many potholes you have and how much testosterone your body's producing. So like a woman she could have inherited tons of these little potholes, but because she's not producing a lot of testosterone, she's not going to experience hair loss till much later in life. So it's going to take a much longer time for enough of that DHT to get clogged in those little follicle potholes to cut the blood flow off. I know potholes isn't scientific, but it's a good visual, so I'm going to stick with it.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, and then a male who has very few potholes but is producing tons and tons of testosterone, he's going to get hair loss early on because that testosterone is just going to create so much DHT that it's just going to just latch on there and cut the blood flow off. So what something like a minoxidil does is it forces blood past that DHT buildup. So you are getting that blood back to the follicle, which is good, but it doesn't always work. And like I said, you're dependent on that. But what we do is we actually work to get that DHT off the follicle so the blood can start flowing back to it on its own. And then we start, bombarding it with stem cells, probiotics, amino acids. So we're really fortifying that rejuvenation and fortifying that regrowth.
Awesome. What are your best-selling products?
I'll show you. I happen to have them right here. So this is the More Hair Naturally 9. We have two basic products that work together. We have the More Hair Naturally 9 and the Hair and Scalp Synergy. They're both contain different sets of stem cells, and this one has a lot more amino acids in it. This has a lot more probiotics in it. But they work to basically they're water-based. It's this little spray bottle. Let's see if you can see the spray here. Yeah, you can kind of see it.
Yep. Awesome. What is your future plan for yourself and the brand? 100%. So most of our listeners are entrepreneurs like yourself and have e-commerce brands. What challenges have you faced in the last few years, and how were you able to overcome them? Awesome. What are some activities you've done in the past few years that have been successful in promoting the brand? Awesome, Mahryah. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd want our listeners to know about yourself and your awesome brand? Awesome, Mahryah. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your story. Thank you so much for your time today.
Definitely.
Yes.